What would be the issue with drilling a test well? So I think you located the spot on the property, right?
We came up with some preliminary designs for a new water system for all school. So the township really happy with. Now that estimate should be fairly accurate because we did 2 other schools in Coventry, Connecticut, and similar sized pump stations for schools, and they came in right around 200,000. So the estimate that we gave, I would stand by that estimate.
Would you guys be, I guess it would be you, Mark, is there a problem with drilling a test well to see what kind of yield we can get out of a well?
Well, would I have a problem with it?
That's the question. I don't know.
How would you fund it?
Where would it come out of? Their budget?
Yeah.
Menards?
You probably find a place for it.
I don't know. That's up to you.
Well, I think if we're going to go with the water system right here, when we started the program and things, actually it's been building against the steep grant. I think we should kind of go on with this rather than start over.
Starting over, I mean, just looking to draw. We'll also see how yield we can get. So we have a better idea of what we're looking at.
Well, right now the well that's there is pulling 22 gallons a minute. So
And that has to be throttled back to 10.
to 9.
Just in time.
So you'd have another well at 9. If the water system,
Why another one?
because that's the DPH requirement, or DPUC requirement, whatever.
So
that-
only if you're less than 150 feet away from the potential source.
No, for what the well pumps. Because the pumping requirements for the wells at the senior housing are 9.
Yeah, it's not based on the ranges to where
The well field.
It's based upon your yield of the well.
But it's a well field too. Whatever it is, it's 9 per minute.
It's 9, the 10 gallons per minute comes into place with the potential sources of pollution. And that's the yield over there happens to be.
Anyway, with two wells, you're up to 20 gallons a minute, you're still 2 gallons short. So you need 3 wells.
Why?
You got 4 wells at the senior housing.
Well, you have 4 wells at the senior housing.
It would depend on domestic uses of the school.
Yep.
That's, I have to say, I don't quite understand your math there. If you've got
I don't understand the math either, but that's what Jim came up with. That's what Jim wrote in the report for all school.
0 to 9 gallons per minute, you need to control the 75-foot sanitary radius. At 10 to 50 gallons per minute, you need to control the sanitary radius of 150 feet.
And when we looked for, did we go through an exercise where we actually looked for a location for the well around Fall School?
I don't recall, I wasn't involved with that project.
I think Jim was.
Jim Harrison was, and I remember seeing the plans. I used some of those plans to compile this mapping, but I wasn't involved in that project.
If you get a well done, you get 35 gallons a minute too.
Yeah, but you also got to consider that even if you went the other way, like we originally thought, then it's a matter of time before you replace all the equipment in the school too. You know what I mean? You got pumps, you got the hydromatic tanks, you got storage tank, you got filter systems, everything. Once you bring in public water, all that responsibility goes away. You don't have to take care of those things.
But
The other benefit,
But you have an $8,000 yearly bill too.
for fire protection.
For fire protection.
Which you never had.
Is that going to come out of the school budget? Because they want this water line?
Actually, $3,000 of it, I think, is billed to the school. on the school side,
The-
and the other.
The state wants water there,
Right.
not just the Board of Education wanting water for the school. It's the state.
Well, the state would like to have it. The state's not demanding you
Well-
have it.
Yes, they are.
Yes,
We
they
got-
are.
we got a
Is it right?
Under-
Yes, there's a consent order.
We have a consent order right now against the school.
I understand.
You
Okay.
have a consent order that says you need to bring, you need to be in
bring
compliance with the regulations of the state of Connecticut.
Right.
And-
Compliance does not mean that you have to bring in public water. Now, there may be a consent order that says you've got to bring in public
I
water.
mean, Central
because people-
School,
we said
Central
that's
School too.
the way to do
It's
it.
got another well.
I'm sorry, what?
Center School, they put another well up there, right?
They're only using one well up there.
Yeah, they would have to,
They did, they put another well up there?
yeah, but they're only running off one of them.
Well, I'm just saying, if they had to put another well in, because now you have two wells up there.
Mm-hmm.
So if they put another well down here, you know, what are you talking it cost?
Well, you're talking the difference, right, if you go back and look at, and I just had that, what was the 220 one? If you look at the 202, okay, and say that is applicable now, these costs were still good, okay? The town would pay 68,000 of that. 133 would be reimbursed if we did everything at the school, okay? Doing it this way would cost the town an additional, to bring in public water, an additional $63,620. And you get the fire protection and everything. Okay, because of the 132,000, it would be the town's cost, 100,000 towards construction of coming down the road, and 32,300 the town's portion going into the school. Okay, if you compare that to the 68,000, if you stayed at the school, did another well, changed everything out, it would be additional cost of 63,000 to the town, right now by what we got the figures. And I mean, you get the benefit that you've taken care of, you don't ever have to change out pumps or anything in wells if something goes bad. All the treatment in the school goes away, all the testing. And I don't even have a price with, do you have an idea what they're paying right now for yearly testing? But in the hydromatic tanks, in the storage tanks, all that goes away.
Well, I
You know,
understand.
that's why, I mean, my
How often do you
personal,
change all that? Next question.
I don't know how often you change it, depends on how bad it gets or if it's not taken care of absolutely.
It also depends on the quality of the water.
Right.
That can affect the well pumps.
What's the quality of the water there now? Isn't it good?
No, they got treatment in there.
Everybody's got treatment. I mean,
Yeah, but even with treatment, the water is about the color of Mary's hair every day. And if you put that, strawberry blonde, yeah, if you put that in a bottle, it's not appealing to drink.
You can't drink the water then?
You can, but it's, you know.
Did they have
yeah,
bottled
if
water
you
for the
want-
staff and everything? Did they bring in bottled water there?
No, everybody needs to pay for water, for bottled water if they want, but it's not free, no.
Okay, they don't
Okay.
supply it for staff?
No.
So,
Just reading when you $9,000 a year for hydrogen.
this is, no, because I know what you're saying, yes you do, but if you're just gonna look for, at, domestic water, okay, this doesn't, these prices, this 202 has nothing to do with fire, and providing any kind of fire suppression. This is a figure to bring just the domestic water, which if you did all this, that's all it would be is domestic water in the school, no fire suppression. So, you're right, but you got another $8,000 for the hydrants.
9,000.
7,800, 8,700.
What's it gonna cost per year for water?
Right now, it looks like it's somewhere around 5128, based on,
And then 9,000 for hydrants.
Well, if you guys take, now you gotta take them separate, okay?
That's 14.
Because if you look at your cost now, you gotta look at this cost of 5128 for your domestic water versus what you're paying now for testing and upkeep of the system. And I don't have that figure, and that's Dave, where do you get that?
It was, the cost for the water was less than the cost of maintaining the system, the costs that were associated with the water right now. If you had the hydrants in, it was a little bit less, I'm gonna say like $1,500 less a year.
For the cost of water?
Yeah, it's paying for the water versus the system.
That's not.
That's now. If you had the hydrants in, that certainly changes the equation.
And the water can, what's the, rate of increase per year for water? The cost?
I'm not the DPUC, self-controlled rates.
What's been in the past? I mean, it must be.
I didn't do a study on the DPUC rates, Bob. I mean,
No, I'm
that's
not
part
saying
of
it, but then some average, you know, I mean, it goes up.
I don't know, do you have any idea how much?
No, sir.
They go before a commission and all their, as a controlled corporation, it's whatever the rate schedule is approved.
Explain to me the maintenance of these things out there. They go on the ground.
There's very little maintenance. They would open the hydrants and flush them periodically.
And who will do that?
Birmingham owns the system. Birmingham would do that.
Birmingham owns the pipes and the.
They would take over the system.
When you say take over, explain what you mean by take over.
They would become public. They would become the water operator.
So those pipes would become an asset of Birmingham Utilities?
Well, we pay for their also.
So we install the system and then give it to Birmingham Utilities?
They would become the public. They would become the operator of the system. I'm not sure who would own the pipes. The town would own the pipes, or Birmingham would own the pipes. Is there some arrangement?
Pipe breaks, it finds out quick.
Well, no, that's why you wouldn't want to retain ownership of the pipes. Because then you have the total overall responsibility of the whole system if something went wrong.
Didn't Birmingham just get sold?
It's in the process of being brought out by Connecticut Water.
And they have the same agreement then with Connecticut Water as we do with
Right.
Birmingham?
Any agreements to assign you in Birmingham, they have to honor.
Okay.
Can you explain to me the theory behind the cost of the hydrants? What is exactly we pay for on these hydrants?
I'm not sure. Probably exercising them.
So this does that, Birmingham does that?
This is what Birmingham gave me. It's a breakout of the chart.
Well, you know, it's the cost, I want to know what,
You'd have to check with Birmingham.
what they do.
Besides maintaining the systems and flushing the hydrants, I don't know exactly everything they do. I just asked them for a cost, on what it would cost. But you could certainly call someone like a Jack Heath, and I'm sure he can tell you even how these are derived. These are all DPCU rates.
It's really hard. I'm not sure what, I mean, it seems like an awful lot of money for 5 hydrants. Consider we put them in. We paid, you know, we paid for them, we put them in. And they want to charge us over $1,100 a year for 5 hydrants.
$8,700.
For 5 hydrants.
87.
So that's what, it's almost
$1,625
$1,600 a piece. So like for $1,600, I'm paying for a hydrant every year. I'm not sure. Is there additional cost for water on that? Say if they get used?
No, I believe we asked them that question. We asked that to Birmingham when they were in here. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe there is. Again, you can talk to Jack Heath directly on that.
Now, what is the cost of the warrant, you know? The warrant.
It's,
in their contract.
it's in their engineering
I think it was like
contract.
about 5,200 for 2 days, something like that.
We've included the cost of the loans.
It's part of the 61A for the contract. 61A.
Yeah, so it's right here.
That's boring. 2 days was estimated at 5,200. I mean,
If you were to do, explain me why you need the pump station, if you have, you basically have one well that goes into the facility now. You drill another well and put that into the
Their current
facility.
system, it appears to be inadequate.
Well, it's because it was too close to the oil tank.
It doesn't appear to be treating the water properly.
Well, I understand that. I mean, I guess my question is why,
We can look at other alternatives for you, but I wasn't involved in that project. I'm currently not involved. We're doing that project for a pump station. I could do it for you.
well, sure you could.
I can give you a price to do it. Yeah.
all right, yeah, right now,
I think these would be,
this is basically what they had suggested we do. When you originally looked at it.
Well, this was before, Joe. And at that point in time, they came back and it was gonna be $300,000 total complete, done. Plus it hadn't grown to what it's grown to now.
Our original estimate was $300,000, which we applied for a street grant. And the other estimate was $69,000 that we put in CIP. Was our best estimate that went to the building investment. So the 69 has grown to 83 for the construction, plus their contracts. It's grown to 95, 69 to 95.
well, I understand that sometimes those things happen. I guess my question now is, okay, now that we realize that it's grown way beyond what we originally anticipated, do we look at it and do something, you know, and look at, is there an alternative to doing this?
I think there's always an alternative, and you could do any alternative, but I think this really, for the money, is the best project for the town, to bring the public water into the city.
That's the preferred way to do it when there's a water main in the vicinity. The Department of Public Health definitely prefers a water main rather than bring in a new water system.
And they should pay for it. Town has to pay for it, townspeople have to pay for it.
There's no requirements preferred.
Well, our cost, if these figures hold true we have right now, our investment would be $130,000. A town's money coming.
Plus $9,000 a year.
Plus the 9,000, plus the 7,800 or 87?
The price stays the same.
Right, for the fire protection. We never have fire protection in any place in the village. I mean, that's certainly a plus for the houses we have there, and the school.
But our fire departments are also figuring in, and have been figuring in, these tank trucks to take care of the fire protection. So you're getting these tank trucks for the fire protection, that maybe we should sell the tank trucks because we're not gonna need them.
Well, I think we've got other parts of town we may need the tank trucks in sometimes. I'm just saying, the fire protection along there, I think is a good thing. Actually, we presented that when we presented to the state to get the state funding. Not only domestic water, but the idea of fire protection.
Ransacking fire protection on top of fire protection. There's a lot of things that have been on the way out completely, as well as
The fire hydrants that are there now are not active.
Right.
None of these
Haven't
fire
been for
hydrants are
quite some
now
time now.
You just gotta open them up and you'll have fire protection.
There's no pressure to it.
It's what?
There's no pressure to it.
I think
It's shut off.
there's pressure.
You're saying those fire hydrants that, like on Penny Hill, going up there, they're active?
Sure, it's a turn valve, huh?
No, Stu Cobb said it was only active to in front of the mill.
Well,
Stu Cobb said it was only active to in front of the mill, and everything else is
There's a
shut off.
valve, it goes right in front of the mill, just open that valve up, it'll activate them hydrants.
Yeah,
You
that
got
valve
high
doesn't-
water, and you got the reservoir to feed it.
Do you have a pump to kind of maintain it? I mean, first of all, that's not, nothing
No, it's
that we have control of.
No, I know.
You know that as well, right? And they were shut down years ago. But what we were told is the only active fire hydrants with pressure are right in front of the mill. We were told that by the fire department.
We don't call pond consider.
Well, of course, you can pump out of the pond, yes.
And that's what we've been buying fire trucks and updating fire trucks so that they have the tank capability to do just that. That's what I'm saying, you're doing, you're.
Well, the fire trucks go all over the township. This is just one area.
I guess it's nice to have fire protection, it's probably nice to have fire hydrants all over town. But I guess I'm going back to really the objective of this is to get water to the school. I know, because it's the first thing that hits my mind when I'm looking at this, saying, why can't we just drill another well? And I think if we can drill that and get an answer saying, yeah, we can do this, this is the deal, these are the problems with it, you know, we've done our due diligence, we've drilled it saying, here's one alternative, it's not the preferred alternative, but it's an alternative, and we've investigated that, here's another one. And use the arguments that you're making, which are, you know, certainly valid arguments. But I think that, like I said, my initial reaction is, you need water to spill, drill a well. We do it all over town.
What are the odds of drilling a well into an aquifer and not getting water? It's all aquifer then.
It depends. I don't have an answer.
That's your engineering answer?
Yeah, that's my engineering answer. It depends. It depends. I haven't done an aquifer study in that area. I have no idea if you drill well, but the drill would be, or if you would be in an aquifer. Aquifers are very tricky things because you have confining layers of soil, and if you miss that aquifer with your well, then you could be absolutely dry hole 10 feet, 20 feet from an aquifer. Depends on the soil. You would have to do a level A study for that, which would be a lot more than the pump station that's looking at cost of that.
I'm just looking at saying, all right, let's, again, try to get water to the school. Again, I'm going to say, my first reaction is drill a well. I think any normal person is going to say, why don't you just drill a well? Why are we bringing water from town down here if the problem is that we have a well that's functional and gives us potable water? The state comes in and says, you know what, you got to add another well to it, or you got to get another source of water to this thing. Okay, drill another well. It's sort of simplistic, but that's the first thing that I think that any normal person would look at that and say,
I believe we submitted you with a preliminary design to drill new wells and then the pump station.
Right.
And then it was. Then you said it was going to be about $700,000 or $800,000 to bring the water over. And then miraculously, we could get a $300,000 steep grant. Miraculously, there was a construction cost that came in at $300,000. Miracles happen like that. But now
I figured out a good way if you.
But now you know now the prices. So it's like everyone's like, it sounds like a great idea. It's not going to cost us anything. Now, you know, the things have changed. So I'm looking at it saying, okay, the decisions that we made before, based upon the information that we were given, were probably sound decisions. The information has now changed. We've gotten better information. So do we revisit at this point and say, what else can we do here?
I did a lot of research on the culvert crossing.
Yeah.
And we gave you.
Yes, I saw that.
For different ways. Now, upon careful review of that, this is the cheapest way I could come up with to cross that culvert. If you went with other ways, depending on the rock.
I'm not faulting you.
You could be up to $200,000 just to cross that culvert with other ways.
I'm not faulting. I think that's wonderful. My point is that you make a decision based upon the best available information you have. If the information changes, you then need to look at it and say, is that still a valid decision? And the point is, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at it saying, if we get a well that has a decent yield and a decent quality of water, is that a better way to go?
Well, you're still going to have your replacement of all your equipment inside the building? It was a breakdown, I mean, it's just not another well, the well is only one element here, you know?
Right.
So, if these all held true, you'd spend $68,680 of town money. If everything held true on that, you could do the building, you could do all the hydrant
Versus 130,000 or whatever it is.
Right, so
Yeah.
for $63,000
Yeah.
more, I mean, in my opinion, you get the public water there, that ends all your problems at the school with pumps and wells and treatment or anything. It all goes away and you get the fire protection.
Plus $9,000 a year for the hydrants.
One question, Carl and I have spoken trying to find out, neither one has. Is that culvert ours? Is that culvert the town's?
The culvert belongs to the people who own the mill, I believe, as far as we've trusted.
Have we approved this with them?
It's in the road right away.
So, yeah, we're right away. It's described as the tail race and a couple other things. So. I just feel really, I mean, it could come in even less than 130,000 because we do have contingency built in there. I think the investment of that at the time,
And that's happened,
the what?
that's happened, it could be even less than that because we have contingency.
Well, look at, you see the contingencies? I'm just saying, you
And
won't know.
this could come in less too because we have contingencies in there.
Right, but you won't know until you get your bids.
Yes, and at that point, it's gonna be like, oh, we can't have the bids in, what are we gonna do? We can't stop now, we got the bids in. We can't stop.
We can always cancel the bid.
Yeah, we always have.
We can't cancel it now because we just going into a partial design, or we're designing the thing right now, and we can't stop it apparently. So, curious, how far do you think we're gonna get if we go all to the point where we get bids in?
No, my point is, why would we stop it now? We did get state funding to do it, okay? It's not only town funding.
Yes.
Right.
You're talking double the money in the pocket, and you're talking a continuing fee. It could rise because it depends on what APUC says we're going to do, the prices. On a continuing fee on a yearly basis. Well, I just went out and bought a Jeep. I could have gone out and bought a Beamer. Put the both going to get you down the highway at 80 miles an hour for 100,000 miles. You know, and you price them out.
What kind of beamer you buying? What kind of beamer you buying?
That's more interested in the speed limit, he's going 80.
Just in the right-hand lane, I can play that maybe.
So, I think one of the key things is that you eliminate all the headaches in the school now for upkeep and everything. Continuing testing, where you would not have to replace pumps, or wells, or treatment systems, or storage tanks. And I think that if you had everything right there now and hooked up another well, you still have that in the future.
You don't need a storage tank, Mike, in the school?
Not with public water.
No?
Yeah, just feed straight in.
The tank would be abandoned.
Yeah. Well, that gets abandoned.
The water tank would be abandoned with this design. If you went with a new system, that tank gets rather old, you would more than likely need a new tank if you build a new one.
Which I think isn't here anyways. Yeah.
Which is new tanks and, a pump skid package probably. And
Was that the only price?
It's in this place here. When they looked at it. No, the only reason we started on this program is when Birmingham did bring public water. We always talked about this, but it was a $600,000 to $700,000 price tag to bring the water from town. When they put the cost on themselves to bring it to River's Edge condominium, it made logical sense. Let's see if we can get funding to extend it to the school. Because it's true, and I think can verify this, DPH would really like to see public water. That's what they like to see because the testing and everything goes
They
away.
love to see.
But,
Like it.
you just made a statement that Birmingham brought the water across the river and everything at their expense. with their pipe and everything,
That's correct.
right? And why can't they bring the water from, at their expense, all the way to the school with their, and we'll buy the water from them?
They chose not to do that.
Why?
They brought it to River's Edge condominiums. That's what they had to do for themselves, because they were in trouble. They didn't, they had taken over River Edge condominiums and the apartment complex. There was not enough water, quality water, for the people there. For a while, for several months, they hauled water to make up for the difference. And then they decided to bite the bullet and bring it from Holland into Wellington and Depot Road. They did that out of their own necessity. But that gave us the opportunity to extend that line. That's why we went after state funding to extend that line and bring it to the school.
If this were on, without shadow of a doubt, the best way to go, the best financial way to go, I found it worth looking at. I realize that the health department likes public water. They love public water. And they want to see everybody have public water. To help the town to create and attract new business, as you know, is one of my primary interests. At the same time, you start putting in public water, and then if you put in public sewers, this one's going to get by. Because there's not going to be any way of controlling what happens to the town. So now you've got another concern on top of all of the rest of this to look at. And that is a serious concern.
What serious concern? That we got to bring in sewers?
If you bring in public water,
Yeah.
and then you bring in, and then there's always the potential of bringing in the sewers, because of large complexes, so you're going to be having to do that. And you're going to change the whole complexion of the town as far as what the town is like.
Well, in this area, I don't know where you bring public sewers in from. I mean, I don't think they even have on Holland, do they? Do they have sewers on
Public
Holland?
water brings in the whole potential of the whole town being changed. Seriously, it does.
The village has always had public water.
Yeah. A small system within themselves.
And that's all this is.
Yeah, this is just a school property.
Not a 12-inch main, no, it isn't. No way.
Well, the 12-inch main is, like you said, it's sized for the fire flow. I mean, the state, that was one of the mandates of the state, that you had to justify it's just for the school. The state wasn't about to fund $300,000 to fund a water main extension for a company to move on with it. That was one of their critical things. That's why it had to be there.
We did not design that main for expansion of waste. Normally what we do is put a T valve and a cap at every intersection, which we do not have.
That's right. And that's why
It's not designed for
under the state grant. I mean,
Would you go to a
it's gonna be
16
their,
inch? You want to expansion?
It would depend. I'd have to look into it. If you want to supply more water into the other streets, you may need to have a larger line. Or may not. I would have to look at the numbers.
but that's only sized, seriously, for the steep application. The state was very adamant that pipe could not be anything more than be required for that school and the surrounding area that it bypassed, because that was mentioned in the steep grant.
I could go on all night.
I think it's a good project.
Take a ride to Wellington.
Mhm.
I get a question on the pipe.
I used to go to that time.
No, this is second line.
Second line.
Second line is the standard for water.
It's not that rubberized that they did over coming across the river, no?
It's not high density polyethylene. It's not plastic.
That's what they actually put in the hole in the board, right? That what he's saying there, that was along the road, it was like plastic, I think.
Underneath the river.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
That's why I just.
HDPE pipe.
If that would be, just go up and over the hill with no 45, less friction, more value.
There's really not that much, less friction. You know, for that small section, it's minor losses. Even these 45-degree bends and things, they're very minor losses in the water system. All these bends and things that I put in the whole system will drop it down maybe a pound or two max of pressure. It's not a significant loss.
Where do they come across the river with that, with pressure?
85 psi. They have a pressure dosing valve, and on the other side, on this side of the river, and they're at elevation 50. The school's at elevation 396, so you have 46 feet difference. And at the school, it reduces it down to about 65 psi.
These cost estimates, are they based upon the prevailing wage or?
No, because it's under 400,000 on construction. That's I checked with Larry.
How do you figure that?
Because it's two separate projects.
Well, it's over 100,000, so that would be prevailing wage, and that is based
For reconstruction.
Well, this is
for
new.
this project.
It's new, 400,000. It's new.
New construction is 400,000.
But if you get 330,000 in construction for this phase, and then the other part of the project is, you're looking at roughly 80,000.
It's under two different programs, two different grants.
It doesn't matter. The state considers it in one project. We just talked about this. The project is to bring water to the school.
It would be two
The
separate.
the state has a whole separate requirement for the school. School's completely.
Well, I can ask Larry again, but I asked him that question.
That's the way they explained it. Talk to Dave Harding.
My point is, with prevailing wage, they want to look at the whole project.
And the whole project is the water main down Route 32.
I think I just heard the whole idea is to get water. The steep grant was given so we could get water to the school.
To the school property line. That's
What
what the
is
steep
this?
grant
It's just two
covers.
different contracts, John.
I realize what they are.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's.
I asked Larry that specific question, okay?
When did you ask Larry that specific question?
Oh, a week ago. I can go back and double check with him.
I would check with him.
I will.
I would like to see that in writing from Larry saying that the combination of these two projects, that has an estimated construction cost of over 40,000, is not.
But the whole point is you can't combine the projects.
I really do. But under prevailing wage, you can't break the projects up and just say it's under 400,000.
No, they were never joined in terms of the money.
Okay.
Well, I can ask.
One can't happen without the other, though, right?
Right.
Okay.
But we're only talking about one at a time.
I will ask Larry that specific question if you like. Again, but I did ask him.
Because Larry's looking at 325,000, so 325,000 under 400, so it's
I
okay.
just kind of, also look at when the labor union comes out and says, hey, how come this isn't prevailing wage?
Exactly.
We should probably have an answer for him.
Well, that's why you're paying Larry.
Yeah,
well,
So that's why you're paying
Which is why
Larry.
I'd like to see something in writing from Larry saying, no, this is not a prevailing wage. I mean, forgive me, but everything that I hear is not always everything that's been told. Sometimes there's a gloss in translation.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
So I like to see things in writing. I like to see the question, and then I like to see the answer.
I can ask Larry to give us that in writing.
That would be wonderful.
Well, anyway, I wouldn't want to put out a bid if I needed prevailing wages.
Yes, I realize that.
That's why
I'm asking the question. You know, looking at it, saying, okay, we're up over 300,000, we're getting close to the magic number. And then I'm thinking the other one's running at about 80, that's part of the magic number. At least in my mind, maybe I'm wrong. I know it happened before, but.
Well, if you join them together, yeah, it's over 400.
And if you ask a union person that says, okay, the whole idea is to bring water to the school, they're going to say this is all one project. For a prevailing wage point of view, this is all one project as far as they're concerned.
Right, from a simplistic point of view, yes.
Yes, and that's how they look at it. If you have the Department of Labor, if you got a letter from the Department of Labor that says, no, these are two separate projects, wonderful.
Well, I would rather go to Larry. I will ask Larry.
Well, that's Larry, because Larry probably should go there. I think that's great.
Right.
You've got to understand that whole line of getting the water to the school was the whole idea. Once you realize that,
I agree. It goes all the way to the school.
a lot of contractors on state jobs are in a lot of trouble over that type of thing.
Well, I would certainly like to know the absolute answer to that question. I did ask Larry that question, but I'll ask him to put something in writing. Make sure he understands.
I think you love that.
Yeah. Because I certainly would not want to put out a construction bid without prevailing wages if I need it.
Yes,
You know?
yes.
Did you have anything more for James?
Did you have an answer to my question I emailed you with yesterday?
I'm looking into that.
Oh, that doesn't count. That's on a different project. You can't ask him that.
He's here.
No.
5 minutes. I can ask the
Did you
question.
see Larry's response to that?
I mean, actually, no sense.
Yeah, because he got mixed up with the project, then he came back and, yeah, you put it in writing, didn't need prevailing wage. That's correct.
I'm reading this thing and
Yeah.
you're saying,
Larry, you're drunk. I called him up, I said, hey, Larry, you're scaring me with this email. What are you talking about?
I figured you're just drunk like you.
I happen to be on vacation today. I'll look into it.
Wow.
I took today off.
Yeah, I'm just kidding about Larry being drunk.
Yeah, when you just put it on tape, that's really nice, John, I'll tell you. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thanks, James.
Questions.